Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Mikhailov from Team Retro, where we like retro games and the devices that bring them to us. So we've got a little bit of a lull in the handheld scene, and there's a handheld that I've really been looking to review for a long time, and that is the Retroid Pocket Mini. I've had this handheld for a couple of weeks now, and I don't think there's really anything interfering with my ability to review this handheld. And most importantly, as of right now, there are no more Anbernics. So we're going to take a look at the
change of plans. I guess you could say something nefarious happened to Mikhailov. Why review an Android Pocket Mini when he can review another Anbernic? Because I may or may not have accidentally dropped the Mini in a box of kitty litter, well, feeding my cats. And hopefully he won't be too mad at me. Seriously though, let's get to work.
Oh, my head. I don't know what happened. What was I doing? I guess I was guess I'm going to review this Anbernic controller, although I could have sworn I had a never mind. We're reviewing an Anbernic controller. At time of recording, the Anbernic RGP01 Controller can be pre-ordered direct from Anbernic's website. The unit I am using in this video is a purple model sent to me by Anbernic for the purposes of this review. As is always required, all opinions are my own, I'm not getting paid, and they are not seeing this video before it is published. It's very odd to unbox a controller that has that typical Anbernic branding we all know and love, but yeah, this is not a handheld, but it has handheld packaging. Inside the box is a unit itself, a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, a user manual, and a USB-C charging cable. Let's go ahead and start our device tour, and let's actually start at the top here with the triggers and the bumpers. I just noticed something just really weird about these triggers and bumpers. I'm going to actually go ahead and hold this up to the camera a little bit just so you could see. If we let the camera kind of focus in, you can really see in there. There is a massive gap between the triggers and the bumpers to the point where you can actually see the spring inside. And if you look over here, there's actually a lot of space in between. Let's look at that space. There's just a lot going on here with these triggers and bumpers. Now, these are analog triggers, and these are Hall sensing triggers. They are actually very quiet. They don't have a lot of travel to them, but they do register as an analog input, so you can technically use these for racing games. And the bumper is just your regular clicky bumper. Let's go ahead and do our typical sound test. Nice quiet trigger. Clickier, but not as invasive bumper. Let's take a look at another controller here. This is the Gillikit King Kong 3. This is just their regular version. This isn't the Pro model or anything too fancy. And you'll notice there's also a slight gap here as well. So it could just be design quality of these particular controllers, or these cheaper controllers, I should say. But it's present, but it's not as noticeable here on the King Kong, but it is really clearly noticeable here on the Anbernic. So stuff could get in there, hair, skin flakes, dust. If you want to take a look at something a lot more expensive, let's take a look at your standard Xbox controller. And there is obviously a gap because they're two separate buttons, but there is something there that is preventing stuff from getting in. Now, you still do have a bit of a gap here at the seams, but stuff more than likely will end up getting in there. But obviously, for the most part, this is a more solidly built controller. Now, granted, this was a custom controller, so I want to say this cost me upwards of about $100. So, $100, $15. Let's do that again. $100, $15. But this was something that I just immediately noticed. I don't think it's going to affect the performance of the controller immediately, but over time, if stuff gets in there, that could severely impact the longevity of this controller. But again, $15 or $18, depending on when you are watching this video. So for that price, I mean, they have to make compromises somewhere. Also at the top here, you have your sync button, you have a light indicator for charging, and you have USB-C. Nothing on the sides, obviously, because it's a controller. You do have a nice little grippy finish here at the back. On the front, you have Anbernic stuff. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you have Anbernic joysticks, you have Anbernic D-pads, you have Anbernic buttons, and you have Anbernic LEDs. Remember the LEDs that I've been going on about for the last several Anbernic videos? Yep, they're present and they're here on this controller. So that's all I'm going to say about them. I'm going to stop harping on the LEDs on Anbernic devices because people do apparently like them, even though it's not particularly something that I like. It makes more sense on a controller than it does on a handheld. So we're just going to kind of go with that. And we're just going to kind of leave the LEDs alone. We'll play with them a little bit when I turn this on. Let's check out the joysticks. These are Hall sensing joysticks. There's nothing overtly impressive about them, but there's nothing unimpressive about them either. They are functional. And your D-pad is a typical Anbernic D-pad. If you're used to Anbernic devices, you are actually used to this D-pad. So there really shouldn't be any issues there. Let's do the sound test. There's a little bit of a click to them, even though there is still a mushy feel. That click is most prominent. Listen to that. You go right into the middle, you get a nice little snap there. I don't think that's anything that's going to impact performance, but we're going to check out this D-pad in a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at the buttons, and first we'll look at the travel. Travel is fine, feel is fine, sound not so much. My mic is probably already picking up how clicky these are. Let's do the sound test by the mic. Yeah, these are loud and clickety-clackety. Even if I were to pretend I'm playing a game here, let's say, I don't know, I was playing Mario or something, you hold right, that's fine, and then you're pressing buttons here, yeah. There's a definite clickety-clack to these buttons, and it's not as much of a deal breaker as it might be on other devices because you're probably not using this controller in bed next to a spouse. You're more than likely using it on a couch or in a living room or in your computer room or office. So it's not going to be as much of a deal breaker. But yeah, these are very clickety clackety. If you take a look at the bottom here, you could tell that this mold took into account a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, because if I hold this up to the camera, you could see kind of that circle indent here. So I think the mold was made in the factory with the intention of that being able to be opened up or poked out to put that headphone jack there. but instead it's just filled in. So obviously Anbernic decided not to put any kind of headphone support in this controller. And then if you look in the back, it is very weird to see Anbernic branding on the back of a controller. Like, this is the typical sign or sticker that you would see in the back of their handheld, and it's present here in the back with the model number and everything like that. Why they called this the RGP01, I'm not quite sure, because this isn't a retro game. This is a not even a retro controller, it's a regular controller. So I'm curious why they went with that wording, because RG usually means retro game. And then obviously you have these M1 and M2 buttons in the back, which are programmable, and you have a T button, which I believe that is for turbo functionality, and I think that also helps you program these M1 and M2 buttons, which we're going to check out in a little bit. But you also have this grippy texture in the back, and it even goes so far as to also be on the button, so it does give this controller a bit of a comfortable feel and grip. I don't really have an issue with how the controller feels itself. I'm a little curious as to why they chose a switch style layout in the middle, because you have your plus and minus buttons. But then if you go to the buttons, you have an Xbox button layout. So switch in the middle, Xbox on the ends. I'm not quite sure why they decided to go that route, but here we are. And regarding this specific color, the color is kind of a nice purple. I kind of like this. I almost wish I got the black one instead. I feel like the Skittles buttons don't quite work with the purple, but I don't hate it either. All right, now let's go ahead and turn this on and see how well it functions as an actual controller. So you can do multiple modes here. So we're going to try switch mode out first. And you get to switch mode just by holding the home button and then pressing the sync button. And you could see it turns on, you get those LEDs, and it very quickly shows up on the Nintendo Switch. So now that we're connected, we can actually do something with these LEDs here. So if I hold R3 and I start pressing the capture button, you're going to see here it's actually going to cycle through a bunch of different LED settings, from some breathable options or some moving options, and then you just have some solid colors. So I kind of want to pick something that goes with the purple aesthetic, but I think I'm going to just go with regular old purple. So there's our nice static purple colored option. And when this is in Nintendo Switch mode, these buttons function as intended. So B is going to be A is going to be B, and Y and X are going to be reversed as well. So let's go ahead and let's try the Contra test using the Contra collection that I happen to have on my Nintendo Switch. So we're just going to boot up into regular NES Contra. And if I hold down the down arrow here and I wiggle it around a little bit, not really intending to do any diagonals, just wiggling around and see what happens. Yeah, it's a pretty good D-pad. We are rock solid, and then if I do intentional diagonals, it registers. But if I don't want them, they don't have them. So there's a successful Contra test. Now let's go ahead and check out a fighting game. This is Ultra Street Fighter 4 for the Nintendo Switch. This is actually a Switch exclusive. And we're going to attempt to pull off some combos here and some special moves. Hadoukens seem to be just fine. Let's try a quick... Oh yeah, look at that. I'm actually notoriously bad at fighting games or any game whatsoever, but these early levels I can pull off a couple of Hadoukens and Shoryukens, so this D-pad seems to be responding to my inputs pretty well. I wouldn't say it's 100% accuracy, but so far in this footage, I have not been able to miss a fireball here. And really quick, we're going to play some Shredder's Revenge because I want to pick a heavy action game where you're mashing on the face buttons so that you could hear just how clocky they are. So we're going to play a little bit without sound just so you can hear how the buttons are. And now with sound on. All right, now let's check out an Android device. This is the iNeo Pocket S. I actually haven't reviewed this handheld, but I do like having an opportunity to take it out and showcase it on the channel whenever I can. So we're in Bluetooth settings here. So we're going to go to pair new device. And then on the Anbernic controller, all you have to do is hold A and press the sync button at the top. And you're going to tell the pairing indicator is going to change. So if we go down here to our list of pairable devices, you'll see right here, Anbernic gamepad. So let's go ahead and click that. And then we're going to pair. And then that's it. So now if we press the home button here, it'll take us right back to our home screen and we can use the controller to navigate. Everything just kind of works. So let's go into, say, a Super Nintendo game here. So here we are playing Lion King on our Android device. This is the Super Nintendo version powered by the SNES 9X core. And I used to be really good at this game. I would actually be able to beat this game as a teenager. I'd go through the extremely hard, just can't wait to be king level. And I would get to Simba as an adult and beat Scar. I don't know how I did it. Don't ask me how I did it. But that was kid me. Grown up me is really bad at this game. Alright, so I'm using a handheld PC, the 1X Fly. The reason I wanted to test on this handheld is that it actually has a USB-A connection, so I wanted to test this 2.4 gigahertz dongle that came with it. So in order to pair, you have to hold down on the dongle for a couple minutes until the light starts flashing, and then you hold Y and the pairing button until you get this rapid blinking here, and then it should just work. And as much as I love this game, I am notoriously bad at it, but we're going to try. Yep, nope. Yep, notoriously bad. I should not have taken that hit early on. Ban, if you're watching, don't make fun of me later. All right, I want to do one last test, and that would be utilizing Bluetooth mode on the Steam Deck. So let's go ahead and see how that pairs. We should be able to just go into Bluetooth. And then in order to pair, we have to do X input mode, which is hold X and sync. And it's actually going to show up as an Xbox wireless controller. And so you'll see the logo is going to change to an Xbox logo, and the home button is going to function as the regular home button. But if you hold home and press A, you can access your quick settings. You can also now rearrange your controller order. So we're going to have the Xbox One controller be first. And I want to test out the analog sticks. So we're going to launch into Forza Horizon 5 on Xbox Game Pass. And it seems like the analog triggers are analogging. Again, there's not much in the way of travel. But when it comes to pressing the gas and pressing the brake in Forza Horizon 5, everything seems to be working as it should, and I can control my speed pretty well. Now let's wrap things up with my final thoughts. I can't emphasize enough how well priced this controller is. For what you're getting versus what you're paying, this is a very good value. Even though I received this purple unit for review, I actually plan on getting a second one because for $15 to $18, why not? I could give them out to my friends or my son's friends, and if something happens, oh well, it was $15 or $18. I'll grab another one. And I can do that knowing it will work on whatever I want to connect it to, like Android, PC, or Nintendo Switch. I like having that versatility considering how inexpensive this controller is. The D-pad and the joysticks pass all of the tests for me, making me feel comfortable that I could play either a retro or a modern game. And speaking of comfortable, the ergonomics on this controller are very good, especially with that matte texture that carries all the way to the back buttons. And while I didn't use or test the back buttons for this video, it's nice to have that option available for those who want it. Of course, no device is perfect, and you are making some compromises at this very inexpensive price point, starting with those very clicky face buttons. They're loud to the point where you can hear them over the game you're playing, and that could become a major concern. The gap between the triggers and bumpers caught me right away, and that does concern me that this will cause issues over time if gunk and stuff ends up getting in there, potentially impacting the longevity of the controller. I kind of wish they decided which button layout to go with, as having Switch buttons in the middle and Xbox buttons for the face buttons struck me as an odd choice, but perhaps Anbernic wanted to model this controller after 8-Bit Do's offerings, which do the same. And finally, this controller does not have a headphone jack. However, it looks like it was supposed to. Now, I'm not taking a lot of points off of the lack of a headphone jack, as most of my controllers don't have one anyways, but it's weird to have that odd circle at the bottom because it makes it look like the original plans were indeed to have a headphone jack on this controller. It's just an odd choice with the mold design to have it clearly indicated that there probably should be something there. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a controller you are considering, and what do you think is the best use case for an inexpensive controller like this? And please feel free to continue the conversation on the Retro Handhelds and Steam Machine Discords, where you could find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the show, like these wonderful people on the screen, you can do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all of these places are in the description. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. Oh, my head. I should probably go get this taken care of and get me some ice and some medicine, and until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing. Why is this handheld in the cat litter?
Happy Halloween from Team Retro.